Nemesis draft! More like biggest loser contest, am I right? Anyways, a new featured game mode has been enabled on the public beta. It's nothing special, but if you ask me, it has quite a bit of potential depending on how the community plays it. This game mode starts off as any ordinary draft pick. One player from each team bans up to 3 champions, and then teams will take turns picking champions. The twist here is that now, rather than picking our own champions, we're picking champions for the enemy team. This practically flips the game on its head, as your bans are now the champions that your team doesn't want to play. You also now have the opportunity to give your opponents the champions that you counter. Heck, even with some proper communication with your teammates, you guys can probably decide on giving your opponents some really silly team compositions. So now, rather than having 2 cohesive teams going up against each other, we now have 2 groups of misfits that need another minute to figure out where anybody's even going. I found this all to be surprisingly fun. Being put in weird situations where going Braum Jungle was the most logical idea is really entertaining, especially with full knowledge that the enemy team is just as strange. Unfortunately, because of the people I've been paired up with in queue, this game mode feels more like, well, a biggest loser contest. I've played quite a few games, and for the most part, the picks and bans are just champions everyone has deemed to be terrible. Taric, Urgot, and Poppy have been top tier bans for the game mode. Those 3, along with a few supports, are very popular picks if they aren't already banned. The games I've played tend to have picks along those lines, rather than the counter picks or the silly compositions. Yes, it is nice to see underplayed champions on the Rift so frequently, but it almost feels mean-spirited when I receive a champion that I enjoy playing on the battlefield. I like to compare this to that moment in movies where the nerd wins the title of prom king or queen as a joke, just so that the rest of the school can laugh at them. Oh boy, I got Mordekaiser! Oh, wait. Jerks. I would love to give an entire enemy team nothing but marksmen and just build a few armor items. But why should we do any of that when we can force them to play Soraka, Sona, and Nami? I'm not saying that this is a bad game mode by any means, or that those champions themselves are bad. What I am trying to say is that this game mode sheds some light on our current metagame. Game modes in the past usually establish an interesting meta within their first few days of release. For instance, in One For All, the best picks were the champions that could either fulfill multiple roles or could chain abilities with themselves. If the instinctive thing to do in Nemesis draft is to hand out what would have normally been considered to have been a bad pick, it kinda makes you think about the current state of the game and what this says about quite a few champions. Now, these are just my thoughts on the game mode, and maybe I'm reading too far into the implications of some of these beta testers. I do really enjoy the nonsense that this game brings forth, regardless of these common picks, and I'm going to be playing it quite a bit with friends when it goes live. Just for the love of God, let me play Taric. Thanks for watching.